you developed a network, a partnership of schools you worked closely with. You can imagine that replicated with 3,000 specialist schools. You've pretty much hit every school in the country is now in a partnership, in a network. And that's replicated from an area, local geography area, into an authority, and then national. So there was this huge networking of schools where they started speaking to each other. What else impacted on the change in education in the UK? One of the major ones was LMS, local management of schools. This gave schools a huge amount of flexibility because they became their own separate business, almost. Funding for the school was given directly from the government. It didn't go to any authority anymore, and they didn't take their slice and then give you what was left. You had your funding directly from the government. You ran everything. You employed your staff. You employed your cleaners, your catering. You paid your gas bills, your electric bills, everything. The head teacher was the CEO. I know in Queensland that's not quite the same. I've never come across the whole contracting thing until I got here and found that quite alien. I still am not a permanent teacher. I've been here 3 years. This is the first time in my career, in 20 years of teaching, I've not had a proper job. I mean, that doesn't quite mean that. Do have a proper job, honest. But as a teacher in the UK, there was very few temporary contracts. You were full-time, part-time, but you were permanent. And the school then had a group of staff they could work with and knew were going to be there. Yes, you had changeover, you needed it. You needed young blood in, and you needed other people to move on. People moved on for promotion. That was addressed again through performance management. Another agenda here, where you were judged against criteria as a teacher, and your pay went up if you went through what was called threshold, which was all based on performance of you as a teacher in the classroom. It wasn't based on results. You know, if your kids got huge amounts of passes and exams, that didn't make you a good teacher, it just made them bright kids. It was based on your ability to take a child from A to B. Where did they start? Where did they get to? That was what was important, value added. And that was what the performance-related pay was about. It was about good teachers being kept in the classroom, not good teachers having to go for heads of department because they needed more money. So that was, again, when that first arrived, that was a bone of contention with the teachers' unions. There was huge discussion about how this was going to be organised. What was it going to do? Was it going to actually alienate in different disengaged teachers because they had a poor cohort of students in terms of academic ability? So there was a huge amount of debate, which I'm beginning to hear again here, which is really interesting. Inspections. Wow, they're good. They were so much fun. Every 3 years, you get a team of inspectors come in suits, black ties, dark sunglasses, and they didn't say much, but and walked around your school. As a first-year teacher, it scared the living daylights out of me. I remember my first inspection was 6 months after I first started teaching, and I thought, oh my God, I don't know if I can cope with this anymore. So I hid on the playing fields as far as I could every lesson, hoping that they wouldn't come and find me. As I trained as a PE teacher originally. So it was quite good, but then you'd find them hidden in the trees in wellies and a mat. But every 3 years the school is inspected, and the onus now, whereas before it was a lot on inspection of teaching and the management of the senior management, a lot of the inspection now is focused on how the school is reflecting its own abilities and how the school is planning for its own progress. So they're actually inspecting your ability to inspect yourself. If that makes sense. It's not just about your results anymore, which is actually quite good. Because what it does is allow head teachers to start thinking about some real progressive ideas and strategies on how to develop people, not where are our exam grades going. So the inspections come in every 3 years. They give you a week's notice, which is nice of them, and then they appear. And again, the whole school ethos changed with the change of inspection. That head teachers now look at monitoring what is going on in their schools. Where are we? How do we get from here to where we want to be? What steps do we need to put in place? And how do we engage the students in getting us there? The focus is on the learning of the student as opposed to the teaching of the teacher. And it's quite a subtle but quite an important change on what was going on in schools. And a lot of the strategies that then came back through that and are shared and disseminated by the government websites and case studies, good practice, and the networks of schools was built upon that. Professional development, very important, again, very much like the new Queensland College teachers, 30 hours, similar things going on in the UK. We have the GTC, Greater Teaching Council, which every teacher has to be a member of, and if you do something silly, you get kicked out of that and you can't teach anymore. It's quite silly to do that. Special schools improves. This is probably the most interesting sort of facet to this conference. Over the last 20, 30 years, the number of special schools has diminished quite considerably. There used to be a huge range of special schools catering for all different needs and abilities of students. They have now diminished, along with a lot of the health system. Mental health had a similar issue in the UK as well, and it became part of health in the community, or school inclusion, as they call it, where all students believe they should be in mainstream school, and mainstream schools need to cater for a much diverse and greater need of students. That's not easy. You've got kids with a reading age of 3 and they're 14, it makes life extremely difficult. So it put a great emphasis on the special needs departments within schools, and they grew within the actual mainstream school as opposed to be special units, of their own away. We still have them, but there are far less of them. You have to be quite severely in need, statemented reading ages of less than 6 if you're 11 plus type thing, or behavioural issues, EBD type students before you actually get into one, if you can find a place. Because again, there's a greater demand than there is supply at the moment. The other one's PRUs, pupil referral units. Now each authority will have a number of these schools. They used to be very much, I don't know, laser, triple G type things, but they'd be there long term. They're now far more bespoke, they've changed again. They offer more of a short-term intervention program type service. The students go there for a number of weeks or up to a term with the idea they're then reintegrated back into mainstream, having had some special needs or programs which have been designed to support them in their issues they have. Does it work? Does it work here? It's all about the relationship the school has with the PRU, and often it's not what's gone on at the PRU that makes a difference, it's how the kids then reintegrated back into the school and the support they then get. If they just drop back in, well, they're going to sink. Oh look, they're back at PRU again. Oh, that kid will never be anything. Well, of course he's not, because you've just abandoned him as soon as he's come back to school thinking he's been fixed. It doesn't happen overnight. So the relationships between the PRU and the school was really important. The developments that have been seen over the last 10 years has seen a lot more vocational education, the VET type stuff that you have here, which I'm just scratching the surface of. It's interesting. And it was a lot about students finding different exit routes. University, academics isn't for everybody. Often students want the more vocational-led exit routes. So a lot of the PRUs now do a bespoke service where they will actually take a kid for 1 or 2 days a week. And part of that time is used to take them to workplace practice, workplace experience. So they do courses, vocational aid courses, such as plumbing, electrician, woodwork, that type of thing, and they find them an employer. Some of the stuff, sort of the JPET stuff used to do, the EPIC do, but it's done through the PRU. So these kids then get up to 25 hours a week tuition and work experience, and the rest of the time they're at school, with the hope that it progresses to level 2, apprenticeships, etc., etc. So they're not just dumped back into schools anymore.